This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome, everyone, to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeff Malaf, and with me once again is Marc Souza. We're going to be talking about the MLB Wildcard playoffs, as well as the one coming up today between the A's and Yankees. Then we're going to be talking about the new era in LA as LeBron plays his first game in Los Angeles, as well as the Conor McGregor fight that's coming up this weekend. We got a lot to talk about, but first we got the most important thing to talk about is the October. Since it is October, we're talking about the MLB postseason. And the Rockies managed to win in 13 in Chicago. They just came from a loss in LA. They went all the way to Chicago and managed to beat them in 13 innings. I thought it was a good game to watch. And going into this next series against the Brewers, Colorado has a lot of momentum going into it, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, winning a do-or-die elimination game to start the postseason is a good step into building momentum. So I can definitely see them carrying this forward.
Yeah, definitely. It was a very interesting game, to say the least. I mean, any game that goes 13 innings in a playoff situation, especially in a do-or-die situation, will make everyone anxious and nervous, assuming all fans of the Cubs and Rockies, even though it was 2-1 and very lackluster in the scoring department. 13 innings is still exciting. I mean, the only runs in the first inning, the Rockies were up 1-0 for a good while, and then the Cubs in the 8th inning scored that one run to tie it. And then in 13, the Rockies sealed it with their final run. So it wasn't like a barn burner in scoring by any means, but definitely if you're a fan of these teams, it was fun to watch.
Yeah, and, the casual fan maybe doesn't enjoy a 2-1 baseball game, but when it comes to an elimination game, I mean, we're looking at the game being 1-0 or 1-1 for almost the entire game. So, not a lot of runs being scored, but great pitching. Both teams got out of tough jams when the opposing team had runners on base. So it felt like definitely a solid postseason game where the drama was there. You could feel the intensity.
And actually, there were several records broken in this game. It was the longest winner-take-all game in MLB postseason history by innings played with 13. It was the longest playoff game in Wrigley Field history, 4 hours and 55 minutes. And that says a lot coming from Wrigley Field, being around for longer than any of us have been alive, and then some. And then the Cubs used 23 players, tying an all-time MLB postseason record. So this was a all-hands-on-deck type of thing for the Cubs, and they still didn't get it done. Do you think this affects their what would you say, their role as a possible dynasty? I guess, because some people, when they won in 2016, some people thought, oh, this could be a dynasty, and now they're kind of slacking off.
I mean, obviously, they're not going to have a long postseason run this year, but at the end of the day, I mean, they got to the elimination game, so I would say that it doesn't really put a damper to it. I mean, obviously, depending on how well they do in the coming years, but let's say the next 2 or 3 years, they have deep playoff runs. No one's going to remember, really, this failure, in my opinion.
Well, it was a pretty big failure, though, to think about right now. And this was the Rockies' first postseason victory since 2009. So it's been an awfully long time since the Rockies have had this feeling of victory in a postseason matchup.
Yeah, and if you're a fan of the Rockies, you have to be feeling so good right now, because that game, you probably lost a lot of hair or earned a lot of gray hair because your team scores early and then it takes them until the 13th inning to score again, despite having multiple opportunities to get another run on the board. And then during this time, you see the the Cubs in potential walk-off situations, and then you see your pitching staff get through those jams too. So, as someone who enjoys postseason baseball, especially when the games get tight.
I guess you're in the minority on that one.
Yeah.
Who likes postseason baseball?
I do like in baseball. The 162 games can feel a little mundane, the grind of it. But when it gets to the postseason,
long.
Yeah,
that's a lot of games.
When
Has anyone actually ever played all 162?
Has any player?
Yeah.
I mean, didn't Cal Ripken play like?
Oh, I guess
5 million games in a row.
He had like 2,000, but like in the last couple of years, I don't think anyone's gotten close to that.
That is a very good question. Maybe
Who wants to play that many games?
Maybe you can research this.
So many players are like, okay, well, I want to rest because I played for 15 games in the last 2 weeks and I'm kind of tired.
Yeah, and in this day and age in all sports, I think teams and coaching staffs and training staffs will always err on the side of resting players, giving players days off. Of course, baseball's no exception to any of the sports.
Is more critical for giving players rest than other leagues because of in other sports. Just because if someone gets hurt, that takes them out for so long.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you're like a pitcher and you get like an arm injury or something like that. I mean, teams are always going to err on the side of caution. So, but as for position players too, I mean, you asked if anybody plays 162 nowadays. It's pretty rare. I mean, players are spending 5 to 10 days or 10 days on the DL sometimes. Even when they're not, maybe they're nursing like a hamstring injury or something like that. They're not going on the DL, but they're not in the starting lineup. So. It's unusual to say the least in 2018.
Yeah. So we have the Brewers and the Rockies playing each other. But first, we got to talk about the A's and Yankees. They're playing tonight. Is this game going to be like what we saw yesterday?
I think so. Obviously, I think there's going to be more runs scored, but I would expect a tight game. I would expect. I don't know. I'm thinking somewhere like maybe a 6-5 type score. I see some drama. I see some big hits later in the game. Obviously, the A's. I think the A's bullpen is a little bit set up better than the Yankees for a longer game, maybe a drawn-out game. But you always have to worry about that home run potential from the Yankee sluggers.
Right. I mean, when you have Stan and Judge in that lineup, it's pretty hard to not overlook them and always focus on them more than the others. But I still see this to be a fairly close game. Chris Davis is one of the hottest players in baseball at the moment. And the Yankees have just been almost cruising through this whole season. And if it wasn't for the Red Sox, they'd probably be winning their division with ease.
Yeah. In tonight's game, the Yankees will roll out Luis Severino. Severino, not the best postseason start last year for him as he was rocked early. The A's are actually going to start a reliever. They've done this a few times this year. Liam Hendricks will start the game. I actually would say he's opening the game rather than starting because he's only expected to pitch maybe 1 or 2 innings, but that's what they will do. They're not sure. Their manager, Bob Melvin, talked a little bit about not sure if he's going to use a starter or another reliever after Hendricks pitches, but it is interesting. What do you think about that tactic?
I've really never heard of a reliever starting before, especially in a postseason matchup. So that's extremely
Actually, you have.
Who?
Didn't the Giants start a reliever in Game 7 against the Royals, or was that Hudson who started? I think that was Hudson. Yeah, and then Affelt pitched like 2 or 3 innings. That's right.
Affelt pitched like 4 or 5. He pitched a long time, actually.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
It is interesting tactic, though. The A's have done this a few times.
Or Jeremy Affelt got in that game like in the beginning of the second inning.
Yeah, you think he pitched to the fourth or the fifth, and then
Yeah,
Bumgarner came in.
Yeah. It felt like Hudson wasn't even there, but he did start.
So Hendricks has started games before. They've done this. What do you make of it? Do you think that it's a smart idea?
For this one game series, I get it. They don't want to put in one of their big starters for a wild card game if they win, so they have them for game 1 or game 2 of the if they win, go to the next series. So I think it's a strategy looking into the next series.
You think it's more that than maybe going through the lineup once with a different pitcher and then just kind of keeping the Yankees hitters off balance? You think it's more looking ahead, or because I kind of personally think it's more about maybe getting guys like Stanton.
I just found that comfortable spot. You know what I mean? That like you just lied back and you're like, oh, this is. Sorry. I know that's just completely off topic, but I just found a very comfortable seating position, and I'm so comfortable right now.
Thanks for throwing me off, man.
It's early. We're all tired here, so
I'm fine actually.
No, I'm not. Well,
Don't speak for me, please.
I'm speaking for you right now. Okay, so, whatever. We're not getting into this, but definitely, I'm saying that the A's are looking ahead in this situation.
Okay. I think there might be something there. I just personally think that they're starting Hendricks, maybe go through the lineup once, and then the next time the Yankees go up to bat, they're facing another pitcher, so it's trying to keep them off balance a little bit. It's very interesting. It'll be something to watch for. Obviously, it'll be something that's scrutinized if it goes terribly wrong.
Right. But it's going to be an interesting game, to say the least.
What do you think the score might be? Like, if you had to give me a range.
25-23. Last second 3-run bomb. No, but I can see this going up in like the 7 or 8s. But it's probably going to be more around, like, if I had to make a guess of the score, I'm guessing like, I'll say 7-5.
Yeah, that seems about right. I think I mentioned like 6-5. I could see that.
Either team can win it.
Who do you like if you had to pick? Yankees are the favorite tonight, of course. They're at home.
It's in New York, but I'm not taking anything away from the A's.
I'm taking the A's.
Really? Okay. I might have to agree with you on that one.
I just think that Severino is going to get touched.
Chris Davis has been on a tear recently. He's been playing even better than he has been.
I think the Yankees they can win. I mean, obviously they're the favorite in this match, but
of course.
I think the game will go. I think the A's will start off with a lead. I don't know. It'll be up to the Yankees, obviously, to erase that lead if they win. But I see the A's getting up early, and then either they close it out or the Yankees will come back. We'll see. But I do see that kind of the way the game will go.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Looking into that series, I think we're both picking the A's in this one. But looking into the other wild card, since the other situation just ended, we're going Brewers and Rockies. Do you see the Brewers taking the series, or do you see the Rockies' momentum continuing?
The Brewers have been a great story. They obviously took care of business and put themselves in a position to play a full series in the divisional round. I don't know. I actually think that the Rockies might be the better team.
We have to. It's going to be close, though.
Should be a good series.
I think they're pretty evenly matched, to be honest. Like it's not like one team so superior than the other.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a good series. I think of the 4 series, it's probably the most toss-up for me.
I'll say it goes to 5 games.
I could see it for sure. For me, it's kind of a flip a coin series. What do you think?
Well, actually, speak of the devil, I do have a coin.
All right, I guess we will tell you the winner now. We're
going to flip the coin. Okay, so what do you want? Heads?
Heads will be Brewers since they are on top.
What is that supposed to mean?
I mean, they won more games, so.
So heads is superior to tails?
Yeah.
But tails never fails.
Yeah, but when you say heads or tails, you say heads or tails, not tails or head.
Okay, so tails or heads? All right. So heads will be Brewers and tails will be Rockies.
All right, let's see it. Best 1 out of 1.
Tails. The Rockies are taking it.
The Rockies, you heard it first.
Yeah, Rockies are taking it.
head to your wallet, pull out that credit card, make that online bet for the Rockies.
Okay, I guess we're just making people bet now. But yeah, so the coin has spoken. It says the Rockies. But we're going to take a short break here. We'll talk a little bit more when we get back about the A's and Yankees, just a little bit more, just to get our final thoughts on that. And then we'll go into the McGregor fight coming up this weekend. We'll just talk a little bit about that, but we'll get right on that when we get back to you.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We've talked about the wildcard matchup between the Rockies and Cubs and the divisional series between the Rockies and Brewers. Now we're going to be giving our final thoughts on the A's and Yankees. If one of these teams wins, do you see them making a run into the World Series?
Both teams have the potential to, absolutely. The problem is that they'll face Boston, and Boston's my pick to go to the World Series from the American League. So with that being said, I can't see one of those two teams advancing past Boston.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely a tough series for both teams, for both Boston and either team that makes it to the wild card, or makes it past the wild card, in my opinion. But it's definitely going to be a fun series to watch. But so you're saying whoever wins this divisional series between Boston and whoever wins the wild card is going to make that World Series trip?
Yeah, I mean, I think Boston will get there. So,
unfortunately, no question.
No, there's a question for sure. The American League is brutal. I mean, any one of these teams can go, in my opinion. In fact, I think it's kind of unfortunate for the Red Sox that in a year that they dominated so hard, they have to play, two 100-win teams basically to get there. I mean, it's...
Well, the Yankees are, 97, 98?
Yeah, I'm rounding, but you kind of get what I mean, right? Like, they're having to go through the gauntlet. It's not like they're getting a easy first round of the playoffs and then they go into the ALCS, maybe with a tough matchup. They're going to be facing a tough team that's coming off a huge win right away that matches up almost perfectly with them. So it's going to be tough for Boston. Even though their historic season has been awesome, there's no guarantee that they're actually going to take home the crown this year.
Yeah, it's definitely a toss-up to say the least. But do you have anything else to say about the playoffs, MLB playoffs, that is?
No, I mean, tomorrow, Rockies-Brewers kicks off. Braves-Dodgers also start. Braves-Dodgers, I kind of wanted to talk about that for a minute because we have the Dodgers, who are an experienced playoff team. They've been so close. We've talked about being the bridesmaid, I think, with the Indians. So the Dodgers are similar in that regard. They haven't won a World Series in like 30 years. So do you see the Braves, being the new up-and-coming team, having a shot against the Dodgers? I mean, the Braves are at home. They will be the home team in this series. What are your thoughts?
Well, both teams, both the Dodgers and the Braves, have won a World Series since, the Dodgers since 88 and the Braves since 95.
Yes, 95.
Yeah. So it's been long for both teams, but whoever takes this divisional series and gets the CS, I can definitely see them making it to the making it to that World Series, and maybe even upsetting whoever ends up in the American League. Because whoever is in the American League for the World Series are going to be the favorites.
Yes, probably a big favorite.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Because in my opinion, it'd probably be either Boston or a team that beat Boston. So how could that team not be a big favorite, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we have something else coming up this weekend that's important, don't you think?
I mean, it's that time of year where there's so many awesome things going on in sports, but what did you have on your mind?
The McGregor fight, for one, was my go-to, just because it's been hyped as like one of the biggest fights, if not the biggest fight in UFC history. Do you agree with that statement?
Definitely a lot of hype going in. I mean, it's a McGregor fight. He hasn't fought in a while, so he's the biggest star that the UFC has.
Do you think Russ will play a factor in this fight?
It could. Absolutely. I think, this fight, it's going to be very interesting. I just think the mixture of styles, but also watching the trash talk, I feel like McGregor has gotten in Khabib's head. I call him Khabib because I always butcher his last name. You want to take a crack at it?
How do you spell it again?
Nurmagom.
N-U-R?
Yes, sir. N as in Nancy. U-R. M as in Mary. A-G-O-M as in Mary. E-D-O-V.
M as in Martha. Sorry, I had to make a shout out to someone.
So I think it's Nurmagom. I always butcher
hold
it,
on.
And I feel like whenever I hear the commentators say it, they say it differently.
Hold on. Well, everyone says, yeah, they just want to think how they, whatever. Okay, I gotta look this. I gotta find it myself. Hold on.
So Khabib is a perfect 10-0 in the UFC. While you look that up, It's crazy. I don't really know what to think of this fight. I feel like he will win.
It's a long name than I thought of. Nurmagomedov. George.
Let's just go with Khabib. How about that?
Okay, fine. That's a long. That must be. For him, it's probably like easy to say because it's been around for his obviously his whole life. But he could probably totally see how it's such a long and arbitrary name that it could probably confuse a lot of people. He is from Russia, so that long Russian last name, I could say my last name is Malinov, and that's Russian, so I can totally get that. And people butcher my name. I can't imagine we have people butchering. There's probably only his closest friends can get that right.
So, will you be watching the fight this weekend?
If I'll probably go to a bar and watch it, and pay a couple bucks just so I'm just gonna pay that huge price usually UFC puts on these fights.
Yeah, absolutely.
This one's gonna be expensive.
Yeah, and it's always fun to watch fights with other people.
Absolutely.
Especially in a bar setting, I feel like a sports bar is actually built for that. So yeah,
especially MMA fights.
Tell me what you think. Do you like McGregor? He's a polarizing figure. Are you a fan?
I can see why people are angry with him. I can see why people like him.
I feel like he's a marketing genius.
Yeah, he has a bit of a temper. When he threw that what was it, a bike at a bus or something?
Oh yes, his incident.
Yeah, it was. It's like you didn't really need to do that. That was completely unnecessary.
We took it over the top.
Yeah.
He's just kind of an over the top guy, right? So
I'm not sure if that was him trying to be over the top or he just has that anger issue that is explosive, like an IED type of thing. But I would definitely say that he gets on the nerves of people, that's for sure. But he's definitely charismatic. He's good for the sport.
I feel like he'll do the fighting thing for a couple more years and then transition into Hollywood or something like that. Maybe go WWE.
WWE's won't pay. They don't pay as much.
Okay.
Like the contracts in WWE are usually in the millions. That's like the highest. Like John Cena, I believe his contract's in the $2 to $3 million a year, and Brock Lesnar's in the same standpoint.
Do you do a wrestling podcast?
No. I just watch wrestling. I actually trained a little bit to be a wrestler, and that didn't work out. But
There's still time for you.
yeah, it's a long story. I don't want to get into that, but I wouldn't mind trying to do a wrestling podcast one day. I have a lot to talk about that.
So
I guess technically that's a sport, right?
yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's a sport. It's athletic.
Oh, it's definitely athletic. Like they're doing some shows in Australia called Super Showdown. That's could be in Australia. I think in front of like 90,000 people. It's something it's crazy like that. So there's a lot to go on that. We could talk more about that if you like, or do you want to talk about something else?
Well, I just wanted to bring it back to the point. UFC 229, Khabib versus McGregor. Khabib is undefeated. McGregor's mouth is undefeated. He's pretty good too, if you don't know. Interesting fight. I will be watching on. I'm very excited. That's at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Any thoughts on the actual fight itself?
I have a feeling it's going to end in the first round.
First round. Would that be
knockout?
A knockout? So McGregor?
I know Khabib also has plenty of submission wins. Like his submission to knockout ratio is pretty even. I believe it's pretty even last time I checked.
Yeah. I mean, he's a really good all-around fighter. McGregor obviously wants the fight to be, on their feet, swing. Do you think that the press conferences that they've had has gotten in the head of Khabib, which might allow McGregor to get the fight that he wants?
I think it's more the lines of this. McGregor's been trying to get into his head this whole entire time, and when he does that, it's always his kind of fight. He always makes it because he always wants the guy to stay on his feet. So I think that's what McGregor's gonna want, and he's gonna get that.
Yeah. I think that would be the fight, obviously, that McGregor would want. Khabib, I think, has the ability to wear down McGregor, so it will be interesting that to see. You mentioned that you see the fight ending in the first round. I think the longer the fight goes, the better chances Khabib has to win, because I just feel like his size and his strength might overpower McGregor, especially when both fighters are a little bit tired. I like the stamina that Khabib has shown inside the octagon.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting fight to say the least, but I'm still going with my first round, either KO or submission victory. But I'm saying more KO than submission.
So are you taking McGregor or Khabib?
It's a good question. Should we do it on the coin flip?
No.
Do you think this is a coin flip one, or do you think this is an obvious one?
I think that, I don't know. I mean, either fighter could win.
Who do you got?
I have Khabib winning. Okay. Just because I think
McGregor's too rusty at the moment?
Well, it's kind of what you were saying. Like, if it's not a first-round knockout, then I see the fight, whether it's a decision or a submission or a later round KO, TKO, it will go Khabib's way, in my opinion. But who knows? I mean, we'll see. I just feel like Khabib is on a roll right now. And at 155, he's
being undefeated really helps.
Yeah, and it's just, he looks impressive pretty much every single time. What do you think? Do you think he'll win, or do you think McGregor will hold court here?
I'm still torn, but I think if the fight stays standing up, I'm gonna have to go McGregor. He just has the better punch. He just has the better knockout blow. And he has that one punch knockout power, and Khabib is like, if it's a knockout, he usually the guy stumbles rather than just one hit KO. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, like McGregor and Aldo's fight was pretty memorable.
That was a one punch knockout, and he's just been known for those one punch knockouts ever since. And it's not just like overhype; it's just true.
Yeah. So. This Saturday, UFC 229, McGregor, Khabib. It's a good card overall, but obviously that's the main draw. Any last thoughts?
That is the only draw of this. I don't see any other fights coming close to that. Do you?
Yeah. But I mean, I don't really care to talk
other fight
about.
has gotten that hyped.
Yeah, I mean this is definitely a huge fight. You talked about it like this is one of the biggest fights, especially in a while. So that's really all I'm looking for this Saturday, just because I am super excited to see who comes out on top.
Yeah. But we're going to take another short break. When we get back, we'll be talking about other things that have happened in sports. Anything else you want to talk about that the UFC fight?
No, I am all
You're
good.
good? Mm-hmm. All right. We'll get right back to you after this.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We've talked about the MLB postseason. We've talked about the McGregor-Khabib fight. And now we're going to go on to LeBron James, as his first appearance as a Laker in Los Angeles happened the other day. What were his stats there, Mark?
Yeah, he played 15 minutes, so he didn't play a whole lot. But
it's a preseason, so that makes sense.
Right. He had 13 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. He was 5 of 6 shooting and 1 for 1 from beyond the arc. So pretty efficient, pretty solid, well-rounded game from LeBron in his first action at the Staples Center, at least as a Laker.
Yeah, definitely, and it's starting a new era. Do you see LeBron going to another team after the Lakers, or do you think this is his last run in the NBA?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I haven't really considered that before, but man, I don't know. How many years would you say that he's going to play? That's kind of the biggest question.
27 minutes left in it. I don't know. I really don't know.
You think LeBron will play 4 or 5 more years, or like 2 or 3 more years?
His contract is a 4-year contract, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So if his career does end, it's going to be at the end of this. But if he does continue, it's going to be like he's going to be doing like 1 to 2 year deals after that. Like
yeah.
Very small deals.
Just like how he was doing previously.
Kind of, yeah. So, well, we'll see how his career goes after his contract with LA is up.
Yeah, and I wonder if Rondo is actually going to be the starter on this team over Lonzo at point guard. What are your thoughts about that? Do you see Lonzo coming off the bench?
If his dad is quiet about it, then yes. If his dad's obnoxious about it, then I don't know. It all depends on, I guess, how the preseason goes. I think the preseason is the test, is the we'll see type of thing. We'll see who plays better.
Rondo's first action at home as a Laker, 11 points, 7 assists, 2 rebounds on 4 or 5 shooting, and he was 3 for 3 beyond the arc, which is not sustainable for Rajon Rondo, but 21 minutes, so he had a pretty good showing as well. Yeah,
it's definitely going to be like, maybe, I don't know how they're going to split up the minutes. I don't know if it's going to be anything much like maybe they both play equal minutes or one gets a lot more than the other, but it's basically, I think this is the preseason where it's like, okay, whoever plays better gets the starting job.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. LeBron's going to have a lot of leeway, a lot of say in this decision. So I actually do expect Rondo to be the starter with LeBron, and then they'll bring Lonzo off the bench. Not a bad combo there. But yeah, we also saw the Rockets and the Grizzlies play last night. Rockies win 131-115.
The Rockies?
The Rockets.
Oh, you said Rockies.
The Rockets. The Houston Rockets. Excuse me if I said Rockies.
I'm pretty sure you said. I could be totally out of it because we do record this at 7 in the morning, and I had to get up at like 5 a.m. to get here because I'm a half hour or 45 minutes away. So I'm exhausted.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring up this game because we were talking about we've been watching the rookies, right? The NBA rookies to see how they're performing. Well, Jaren Jackson Jr., power forward, he had a pretty good game. 19 minutes against the Rockets from Houston, 15 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. Although he did have 6 personal fouls in 19 minutes, which is pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 6 for 6 shooting, 1 for 1 from beyond the arc, 15 points again, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. I was pretty high on him coming into the draft. How do you feel about Jaren Jackson Jr.?
I think he has potential, no doubt about it. But I also think it's like he's going to be a solid player, not like the best player on the team type of thing. But I think he definitely can contribute.
They'll need him to on that Grizzlies team. That roster is looking pretty bare at the moment. You got Mike Conley, and then there's definitely some slack to be picked up there on that roster. So Jaren Jackson Jr., a nice, I guess, start at least on the offensive end. He'll have to work on limiting those fouls, of course. Yesterday we also saw Toronto and Utah play. Utah Jazz get the win, 105-90 over the Raptors. But Kawhi Leonard, 18 minutes, 17 points, 5 rebounds.
Almost a point a minute's pretty good.
Yeah, 6 of 12 from the field, 1 of 2 from beyond the arc. But nice.
He's more a defender than anything else, though. So.
Yeah, nice start for Mr. Leonard in his new Raptors uniform. I know we talked about that a little bit yesterday, him being on the Raptors. Do you think we're going to see a motivated Kawhi Leonard, or do you think we're...
Remember his press conference when he was wearing the Toronto Raptors jersey? He didn't seem very motivated, did he? He was talking a lot like this and not really caring. It's like he was jet-lagged almost.
I feel like he's a professional, despite the drama with the Spurs. I think he's going to have a great season, but I do wonder, it's in the back of my mind, that how will he handle the new team, looking ahead to his free agency and all that. So
yeah. But it's, again, the NBA is so weird to me. Like, it's so, like, anything can happen at any time. When it comes to free agencies and trades and stuff like that.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
It's, like, different from football where you don't have to learn a scheme for, like, 3 weeks and then you're barely ready. As soon as you go to a team, you're ready to go.
Yeah, and all indications, everything that people say, at least in the media, is that Kawhi is going to end up in LA, most likely with the Lakers, but possibly the Clippers. There has been rumors that he doesn't necessarily want to play with LeBron. Do you see Kawhi heading out west?
Depends. Let's see how the Raptors do with him this season, and then we'll find out. It's going to be how they perform with him. If they're contenders and they're in the finals, he might stay. But if they don't make it far in the playoffs, then no.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then I see him. I see him packing his bags to LA, definitely.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got for the NBA preseason this morning.
All right. Well, let's say this. With this preseasons happening, do you see anything different with your postseason predictions from the other day?
No, absolutely not. Until like a major injury happens or something off the wall happens, then no, absolutely not. NBA is a game where talent kind of rises more, I think, in that sport than in other sports where maybe coaching and other factors play a bigger role. But I mean, if the players are healthy, if the players are on the court, the better team wins like 99% of the time, in my opinion. So my predictions will not change unless something out of the ordinary happens or a major injury occurs.
Okay, it looks like we'll be looking out for major occurrences, once in a lifetime type of things. I'll be excited for that. But anything else you want to talk about in terms of basketball?
No, we're pretty good there.
All right, we're going to take another short break. When we get back, we'll talk about anything else revolving around sports, and we'll get back to you right after this.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We've talked about the MLB postseason. We talked about the McGregor-Khabib fight. We've talked about LeBron and the Lakers. We've talked about other NBA teams and who to watch and rookie watch. Now let's move to the NFL. And we are a quarter of the way through the season. Who is your NFL MVP through this quarter of season?
Yeah,
We're going way premature here.
Yeah, through 4 games. 2 names come to mind for me right away.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think I'm going to go with Mahomes.
Yeah, I think everyone else would.
But Alvin Kamara, I think, has an interesting case.
Who? Say that again?
Alvin Kamara.
Oh, I thought you said Lamar for a second. I'm like, what? Who? The running back from Houston? But Kamara, definitely. But Patrick Mahomes, I think if you got to pick between those two, I got to pick Kamara because I feel like he's going to be more consistent through the rest of the season.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we'll see how this plays out, but it's hard to, I get it, but it's hard to say that it's not Mahomes right now until he has at least like a mediocre game, because everything he's done has just been, absolute lightning. Like he's putting up huge numbers. Probably unsustainable numbers.
Do you think it's lack of tape on him? That's the key?
Maybe, yeah. I think that it'll be tougher for him down the road.
Yeah, but do you think defenses are now, with 4 weeks of tape on him, do you think now the defenses who are going to play him are adapting to his game? Or do you think he's going to continue to be fire for the next couple of weeks?
I think that with that offense, obviously they're playing Jacksonville this week, and that's going to be a really tough test for them. But, we talked about how they can score. They can move the ball in so many ways. Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, Kareem
Sammy
Hunt.
Watkins did get hurt, so he's questionable for now anyways.
Sure, but with Kelce occupying defenses in the middle of the field and Tyreek Hill.
Their receiving core could be ranked up there.
Yeah,
adding Travis Kelce to that receiving core, as well as Kareem Hunt being still a stellar back. I would have Kareem Hunt on my team. I'd call him a top. I'm gonna yawn because it's morning. I'm gonna say he's a top 7, top 8 back.
Who's this?
Kareem Hunt.
Oh, yeah. I would agree with that for sure. He's an all-around back. He's a modern NFL running back that catches
I just
the
wouldn't
ball.
put him in top 5 yet. Right now,
That's
at least.
fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Speaking of that, who's your top 5 running backs? If you had to name 5 right now as the top 5 best.
Top 5 best. Are we going off of numbers or who I just think is like top 5 talented?
That's your choice.
Top 5 talented, I'll go with that because different players play in different situations, which can affect their numbers, right? Their fantasy numbers, like so many people like to look at, and regular stats for football fans. But Kamara's for sure up there.
I put him as number 1 right now.
Le'Veon Bell, I know he's holding out, but he's still one of the best, if not the best, all-around running back in the NFL until further notice. I mean, Todd Gurley has to be in the top 3 for me. Then it gets a little tricky after that. I would say David Johnson is extremely good, but I just think he's in such a poor situation.
Oh, he's on the worst team in the league.
Yeah, I think that his talent is top 5 talent, so his numbers won't reflect that.
Would you agree the Cardinals are the worst team in the league?
Yeah, they're either the worst or second worst.
Who would be the worst besides them?
Buffalo.
Oh, you would put them still that low?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, we had this power ranking. Oh yeah, we did have this power ranking the other day. I completely forgot about that, but that was in the football podcast, which you should totally check out. But definitely, I put Kamara as the number 1 talented running back in the league at the moment. Number 2, probably I don't know where to put Le'Veon since he hasn't played, and rust could really affect a player.
Yeah,
being off the field for that long.
Yeah, and this year, I mean, if he's reporting in week 7 or 8, and then you got to wait for his conditioning to kind of get back to him, his football shape. So, I mean, you're looking at week 10, maybe week 11 that he starts making a true Le'Veon Bell impact.
They say he's coming back in week 7, but who knows if that's actually the case.
Yeah, who knows? That's just hearsay.
You have to be in week 10, I believe, for it to be eligible for free agency, which is what he wants more than anything.
Yeah. So you asked me who I think of the top 5 are. So talent-wise, I'm going to go with Kamara, Bell, Gurley. Ezekiel Elliott is my 4th, and then David Johnson will be my 5th if we're going on just based on pure talent alone.
Would you say David Johnson's been a disappointment this season?
I mean, his numbers will say that he's a disappointment, sure. But with an Arizona Cardinals team that has a poor offensive line, they went from Sam Bradford. They've already made the switch to Josh Rosen.
He's 3rd string now. He's losing millions of dollars right now.
So the
Do you feel bad for Sam Bradford? Sorry to interrupt, but do you feel bad for him?
I mean, I feel bad that his career has been derailed by injuries, but it's hard to...
Do you think he would have been a good quarterback without these injuries, or do you think it's relatively the same? He did win the Heisman, granted, but I mean,
I don't think he was ever going to be the top quarterback. When he was in college, especially, nothing told me that, well, okay, this guy is going to be like Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees.
Said that.
You know what I mean, though? Like, I never
part of a weak college class.
Yeah, I never saw like the superstar potential from Sam Bradford, but he's been effective when he's been healthy. I mean, let's look back at last year. He was with Minnesota. He had that great first game of the season. He gets hurt, and then the rest of the year is a wash for him. So, what do you think? You think Sam Bradford? I mean, obviously he's not the greatest quarterback. They did move on from him, but that's kind of what I was going off of. Is that David Johnson? I think is a great player in a terrible situation, and I don't think his team will be good enough this year for him to look like a top 5 running back in terms of making the highlight reel, making the box score, standing out in the box scores and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. But I just think it's, again, we're 4 weeks in the season. It's too early to tell with most of these.
I just want to read something real quick to you.
Go for it.
This is Alvin Kamara's stats through the first 4 games. This is 4 games, by the way.
Okay.
When I'm reading this,
does he have 1,000 yards rushing already?
When I'm reading this, just remember that it's 4 games.
Got it.
275 rushing yards, 5 rushing touchdowns.
Wait. 270 total?
275 rushing yards
Out of 4 games.
I'm not done. Just hold on there.
Okay, that just seems kind of low to me.
Okay. 336 receiving yards.
Okay, that should be reversed with the passing.
35 receptions.
Are you sure you're on like a receivers list, or are you sure that's Kamara?
Oh, this is Kamara. He has 56
Very odd.
carries. He has 56 carries for 275. 35 receptions for 336 yards. He has 6 total touchdowns. This is insane. Like, this is we're
The
reaching.
receiving is most surprising to me.
Well, I mean, he catches a lot of passes.
I know, but he can break out and run so easily.
He's averaging over 8 receptions a game. There's a lot of receivers that are not averaging that.
Not even close.
No.
8 is a lot. Because then you got to get at least like 10 to 15 targets to get 8 receptions in a game. You don't just get 8 throws to you and you catch them all.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean,
so he's in line for like 1,000-yard rushing, 1,000 yards receiving season.
yeah, I mean, his rushing alone, he's
Would
on.
you call 1,000 running back an MVP candidate?
Absolutely, and especially if he keeps his touchdown rate up, 6 touchdowns. If he gets over 20 touchdowns, he's going to win the league MVP.
Well, the thing is with the 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving, Roger Craig of the 49ers in the 80s was the first man to ever do that, and he didn't get the recognition he deserved. But now when you look at it, it's like, oh, that's totally an MVP-looking guy. So do you see, like, if Alvin Kamara gets, let's say, 1,200 rushing yards and 1,100 receiving yards, is that MVP status?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if he can, like I just said, if he gets anywhere near 20 touchdowns, he's at 6 right now through a quarter of the season. So I mean, he's on pace.
So
I know he's not going to hit 24, but let's say he gets 2,400 yards from scrimmage and 15 touchdowns. I think that's an MVP year.
Yeah, but I feel like the NFL MVP is kind of rigged for the quarterback.
Right. That's there. You always have to take the running back and wide receiver stats with a grain of salt, because normally, even if there's 2 things that need to happen for you to win MVP as not a quarterback. You need no quarterback to have eye-popping off-the-chart numbers. So if a guy like Mahomes continues his pace, Kamara is not going to win, period, even if he hits 20 touchdowns, because the pace that Mahomes is on is incredible, right? So if that happens, if the Chiefs go 14-2, boom, Mahomes is your MVP.
Chiefs 14.
Period.
I'm sorry. I was saying that is a bit of a overstatement in my opinion.
So let's say
14-2. I mean, for the Chiefs, just because they've done this for so long, start off so hot and end so poorly.
Right, but this year, let's assume that Mahomes doesn't revert to a game manager, Alex Smith type quarterback. Let's assume that. I'm not assuming that he's going to throw for 5 touchdowns a game or anything like that, but let's just say he's putting up 300 yards passing, 2 or 3 touchdown passes a game.
So you're saying like a 5,000-yard season.
Yeah, and in today's NFL, I mean, that's
like, okay, what's the NFL record for most passing yards in a season?
That I will tell you after
it's in the
I read
5,000s, I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to read you Mahomes' stats right now.
Okay.
He has 1,200 yards passing even.
Even
14 touchdown passes.
Okay. Oh, I just got this. This happened on. I just got an app update. Jags announced their running back will not play against Chiefs with hamstring injury. Leonard Fournette is out for Week 5. Do you think that's a factor in that game against the Chiefs?
Yes, I do, because that's a game that I think Jacksonville wants to run the ball, because their defense is very good. Their offense is not bad, and especially against the Chiefs, they'll be able to move the ball. But I think that they'd rather I think they'd rather control the game on the ground rather than get in a shootout with the Chiefs. What do you think?
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting game to say the least. Without Fournette, they're gonna probably be throwing the ball more with Bortles. But again, Bortles is not the most accurate passer, but he has gotten better. So this might be a quarterback duel. So you might be right on that.
The Chiefs' defense is just not that good. I mean, we saw even the Broncos. The Broncos had their way on with the Chiefs the other night on Monday Night Football. So the Chiefs won ultimately, but they're a defense that gives up a lot of yards. They can give up a lot of points. They're definitely not a good NFL defense by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. I definitely put this in the column of games to watch without question, just because of...
Oh, yeah. It's a very interesting game. It's the first real test, I think, for Mahomes, right?
And I would say it's a great test for the Jaguars also. This could be a very competitive matchup. There's no question about that.
Yeah, and I have both teams. We did on the football podcast, we did our top 5 power rankings. I had the Chiefs at 2 and the Jaguars at, I believe, 5. They were in my top 5, so... Yeah, I think would you say it's the best matchup or the most intriguing matchup of this weekend?
Yeah, I'll put it up there. Definitely a game to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Jags are 3-1, Chiefs are 4-0.
Anything else in the world of sports or in the NFL you would like to discuss?
No. I think that was
I think we are going to call it then. We're just going to call it here. That all we should do it for today. Please join us tomorrow. We'll talk more about the Thursday night football matchup that is coming up between the in Indianapolis. I believe it's the Colts.
The Colts
and the Texans, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, for Thursday night football?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about Thursday.
Or Patriots.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Patriots.
Yeah, it's definitely the Patriots and the Colts, and New England's hosting. I was a little confused there for a second.
I was not entirely sure, but now double checking. Yes, it is New England.
Yeah, we will see Andrew Luck
versus Tom Brady.
Yeah, in a matchup that was probably more exciting a couple years ago,
like in the AFC title game.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, we will see you all next time. Please join us tomorrow. We will see you then.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.